Line's good.
Never on!
Whoa.
Hard! Hardly.
Come on, Brent.
Line's good.
Got real close.
I hear high, right?
Try and hit 2/3.
Have they saved it for her? Yes, they have.
Ooh, welcome to Game of Stones, everybody. I am Sean Graham Scott, alongside, as always, hello, Scott.
Sean, hi.
How's it going, buddy?
Dude, it is a hot day in October.
It is very warm weather here in the nation's capital. It doesn't really feel like curling weather, but here we are.
You know, we were all psyched about our chilly autumn nights and our hoodies.
Yeah.
And now I'm out there sweating again. Got to wear shorts around the house. So, you know, I like it when it's warm. I don't like being cold, but I also really don't like being hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that west coast, that's probably where I should be, hey.
Yeah. That nice consistent weather, have it all governed by the Pacific Ocean.
Well, yeah, we'll see about that. But we had a nice weekend. Saw you over the weekend for Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah, it was a nice affair. It was very well put together by your household. I very much appreciated the invite and enjoyed it.
Yeah, no problem. It was fun. I cooked the turkey. I did it all myself, and I think it turned out well.
Yeah, it was delicious. And I had my leftovers yesterday. They're quite nice.
Very good, very good. I think
you baked a pie.
Yeah, sweet potato pie.
Yeah, I was very impressed.
I want to hear out there from all the people that really hate hate sweet potato pie or think pumpkin pie is so great. Sweet potato pie is where it's at.
I mean, pumpkin pie is great. I very much enjoy it, and but I enjoyed your pie as well.
Thanks, man.
It was a very nice sweet potato pie, not too sweet.
Not too sweet. That's
very
the key.
Well balanced. Yeah. So that was the weekend. Hope everyone had a great long weekend out there. If you're in Canada, and if you're not, I hope you had a fun weekend. Whatever it is you were doing. I should note too, if I sound a little differently, it's because I had a bit of an incident at my apartment where there was construction all day, so it was already loud. And then when I plugged something in, the circuit breaker just gave, and I don't have access to the room to fix that on my own. So waiting for that to be fixed. So I'm in an undisclosed location, which, as far as it sounds to me, might as well be at the end of a runway for how loud the fan is in this room.
Oh, wow. I can't hear it. So,
all right. Well, that's good. So we are here, and I rushed over to this undisclosed location because we really wanted to talk about the Grand Slams returning, Scott, the 2021-2022 season. They are heading back out on the road for the Masters, which kicks off next week. And we wanted to talk about this. It's going to be in Oakville, and Oakville is hosting all the events early in the season. They just had the Stu Sells Toronto in Oakville after the Stu Sells Oakville was in Oakville a few weeks ago. So Oakville is the center of the curling world here for a little bit, and some changes to the field here, Scott. But before we get into the specifics, what are you looking forward to, or are you looking forward to the return of the Slams?
I think I'm looking forward to curling on my TV that's scheduled. I think the streaming has been great, but I'll be honest, it's more of a do I remember that there's something streaming on?
Right.
Even today, like maybe this is just me getting old, but you said something about the baseball game, and I thought, oh yeah, there's a baseball game on. Like I didn't even know.
Right.
I mean, I'm busy working all week, but maybe I should know that there's a baseball game on. I love baseball so much. So maybe that's me, but I find it hard sometimes to remember all of the streaming events that are on. And I did tune in for a bit on the weekend to watch some of it, but I'm looking forward to it being on regular TV where a lot of people will be seeing it and talking about it, and not just the great tight-knit curling community, but maybe a little bit of a wider reach.
Yeah. Well, I wonder about that. With one of the things about the Slams is that it was more stuff on TV, but as the teams and other services get better and better, I mean, like Colin was on the call this weekend in Oakville, and he did a really good job, and it was a smooth setup. So you wonder if some of the appeal, frankly, of the slams is gone, given that so many of the teams who are playing in, say, the Stu Cells are going to stick around. Maybe they'll go home. I don't know, but they're be back in Oakville for this event coming up. Like, you can get these top level events. I mean, the event out west, the final this week was Cooey against Jacobs. That's the sort of thing that the slams would say, hey, tune in, this is where you're going to watch this. But that game
Yeah.
was streamed, it was readily available. So the appeal of the slams, it almost is somewhat diluted as more and more of these types of games are available. And I know they're meaningful to the players, they do matter to the players, there's a lot of money at stake. But for the average fan, it's even less apparent now what distinguishes this type of event from these other events that we see on tour, other than it's in an arena and it's being produced by Sportsnet.
Yeah, I think you're right. The streaming setup has gotten really, really good, and it's a professional level broadcast.
Yeah.
Without camera people on the ice, I would say. The thing I'm looking forward to then with the Sportsnet coverage is being able to switch games, being able to get updates, go around the sheets as they like to do on Sportsnet. Because I find if you get a streaming game that's on the sheet that's designed for streaming and it's not very good, there are limited options to switch.
Yeah, that's it. That's the end of the draw, really.
Yeah.
So they have changed the format ever so slightly, the most minor of tweaks to the Masters. Instead of the typical 30 teams, 15 men's, 15 women's, with 3 pools of 5 doing round robin, they have added 1 men's team and 1 women's team to get us to 32, and they're going to do a ABC draw, so the triple knockout. Now, here's my frustration with when the slams do this, because they present it as, oh, this is so different, this is a way to differentiate this event. Like, the Canadian Open has always had the triple knockout, but it's not really a triple knockout because you use ABC to get you to the traditional 8-team quarter final bracket.
Yeah.
So it's the exact same as the normal spiels, because in the round robin, if you go 2-2, you're going to get at least a tiebreaker out of that. So just don't lose 3 games before the playoffs. In the normal spiel, you get something. That's the same thing here. Once you lose the 3rd one, you're out. So it doesn't really change all that much, other than you don't know who you're going to play and when you are going to play. That's going to be governed by the results. But otherwise, I don't find the triple knockout that interesting compared to the round robin, given that it just leads us to the same playoff format.
Yeah, if it led us to maybe a semifinal, like a 4-team, A versus B in the sort of 1-2 page.
Yeah.
And then the 2 C qualifiers in the 3-4 game.
Yep.
That would be much more exciting. I agree.
Yeah, the A teams don't really get anything out of finishing A. Really.
Right. You just get some time to sit around.
Yeah, which you could argue might even be bad if it's too early.
Yeah, it's like a full,
I think it's a full day off.
Day.
Yeah.
Earlier, yeah. So, yeah, it might not be ideal to come out the A side.
Yeah. So there you have it. That's the new format for it. Let's just run through the teams real quick. We're not going to get too in depth about it, but we'll start on the men's side. We got Brendan Bottcher, Peter DeCruz, Matt Dunstone, Nicholas Dean, John Epping, Jason Gunlickson, Brad Gushu, Brad Jacobs, Kevin Cooey, Yuta Matsumura, Mike McEwen, Bruce Mowat, Ross Patterson, Rich Ruinen, Yannick Schwaller, and Ross White. Scott, what stands out to you of this field, if anything?
I think the inclusion of Ross White and their team as a slam team, they're really good.
Yeah.
They're really good. And they weren't sort of in the company of the slam teams the last time we had a full Grand Slam season. So I'm interested to see them and how they'll perform. They've got a tough bracket, really, playing Gushu in their first game, and then Epping and Schwaller. They'll meet the winner of that one should they win. So pretty tough road there, but I'm interested to see them. What about you?
I'm excited that Yuta's in this.
Yeah.
He gets the invite. I really like that team. They're always a lot of fun. So I want to see how he stacks up to this level of competition. Had a up and down week at the Worlds back in the spring. So I think that'll be fun. And then just as Jonathan and Ryan talked about on their most recent episode, just the international flavor of this that, and we'll talk about it more so when we get to the women's field. But as we continue to go along here, and I'll point this out in the second half of the show, like this is a much more international field than we've ever seen in the slams. And I think that's a good thing. And it's fun to see all these teams, but I think it also speaks to the concentration of talent at the top of the Canadian game right now, that you have so many teams internationally that can earn these points. Even a team like Utah, who doesn't come as much as say Nicodine and play in Canada, that they can acquire those points, which also sort of speaks well to the tour and the points available in Asia right now. But that's just one of those things that it'll be curious to see sort of how he stacks up and where we go in the next quad, if we continue to see this concentration or if some guys will go skip their own teams.
Yeah. Fully half of the field in this event is from outside of Canada. So yeah, good to see that.
Yeah. And more so on the women's side. So let's talk about that. You got Carrie Anderson, Tracy Fleury, Satsuki Fujisawa, Eun-ji Kim, one of the South Korean teams, Anna Hasselberg, Rachel Homan, Jennifer Jones, Eunjung Kim, Minji Kim, Tori Koana, Alina Kovaleva, Tabitha Peterson, Kelsey Rock, Silvana Tiranzoni, Isabella Rana, and Sayaka Yoshimura. So a really international field here. Is that 4 Canadian teams, Scott? 5?
Yeah, I'm counting 11 international teams. So yeah, 5 Canadian.
That's so that's pretty good. Like you got 3 South Korean teams here. You have 2 Japanese teams, 2 Swedish teams. This is a very international field, and it shows depth on the women's side, not just internationally, but within each of these countries. You get a lot of depth.
Yeah, it's nice to see too, because we've talked a lot about, Sweden maybe being a one team deep country. The Pacific Asia nations that we've known have been deep for a while. It's nice to see those extra players or extra teams in this event. Yeah, I'm thinking it's pretty good for the game.
And think who's not here too, right? You don't have a Scottish team on the women's side. Right? Eve Muirhead's not going to play in this. And then Han Yu, who represented China, of course, in the Worlds, who is widely regarded as a very strong up-and-coming team. They're also not here. So you just, again, you see the depth in the women's game internationally. It's great to see.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So, Scott, I was wondering over the weekend, as one does, thinking about what is important this year. And we've talked on the show a lot about how the game really is focused around the Olympic cycle and the quadrennial, and teams are focused on being in position every 4 years to win the Olympic gold medal. So it made me think, like, what is the purpose of the slams this year? Obviously money and high level games for fans, they are entertaining. But in terms of the Olympics, is there any sort of a correlation between success in the slams in an Olympic year and then what happens at the Olympics? So I went back and I looked at what happened in the fall of 2017 as we geared up for those 2018 Olympic Games. And I went through the 4 events that took place and some interesting results potentially. Now, the first thing I noticed is very Canadian heavy. It's, compared to what we got now, like maybe we don't notice it because we just sort of see this evolution and every event of the slams here and there. Oh, here's another international team. Oh, like this team's really good. So that now they're here, but to see it this stark, the Tour Challenge, which was the first event in 2017, I believe there was like 4 or 5 European teams. Bingyi Wang was there, I think was the only Asian team in the tier 1. So just a huge shift in where we were 4 years ago on international representation. That's the first thing that really stood out to me.
Okay. And there could be, I think we're going to get to this with the third one during Euros, but there could be some events in the Asian region during that time too, that could, maybe hinder somebody from participating, but it's definitely different than what we're seeing in the upcoming events.
Yeah. So overall, I went through, and on the men's side of the 10 teams who played in the Olympic Games, you had, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 7 of them participated in at least one Grand Slam. On the women's side of those 10 teams, you had 7 of them participate in at least one Grand Slam. So I went through and I just put together their results over the course of the slams. So let's start with the Tour Challenge. This was the first event, which, God help us, was in September. Which is,
Yeah.
thank goodness we don't have that anymore for a major event early in the season. So the Tour Challenge took place in September of 2017. So let's start on the men's side. Kevin Koe went 1-3 and missed the playoffs. John Schuster 3-1, lost the quarterfinals to Brad Jacobs. Nicholas Edin went 2-2, lost the semifinal game to Stefan Wallstedt. Peter de Cruz went 1-3 and missed the playoffs. And if you're curious, Brad Gushue won this event, beating Stefan Wallstedt. So none of the Olympic teams very well. Nick Edin was the best, but his overall record was 3-3 in this event, if you include the playoffs. So nothing great there. On the women's side, you have similar mixed results. Anna Hasselborg lost the final to Val Sweeting. Rachel Homan missed the playoffs. Eve Muirhead went 2-2, had to go through a tiebreaker and eventually loses to Hasselborg. Tirinzoni lost a quarterfinal to Hasselborg. And Bingyu Wang missed the playoffs, going 1-3. Now, interesting, Nina Roth and Kim Eun-jung were in the Tier 2 events, and Nina Roth missed the playoffs, and Kim Eun-jung went 2-2 and lost to Kelsey Rock in a tiebreak there. So you don't have a lot of success here in this initial Tour Challenge on any of the men's or women's teams who would go on to represent their country. Now, I should note that not all of these teams knew necessarily that they were going to represent their countries. But it's kind of interesting just to look at what their season was like in the slams before.
Yeah. So at this point, Rachel Homan doesn't know that she's going to the Olympics. Probably Silvana Tirinzoni and Peter de Cruz aren't sure at this point still. So,
Yep.
but these others, I mean, Nicholas Edin knows he's going.
Yep.
Anna Hasselborg presumes that she's going. I think there was a playoff, but they won pretty handily. So
yeah, I think Bingyu Wang knew at this point.
Yeah. So yeah, we don't see, anybody dominating to a win. A couple semifinalists there, and Anna Hasselborg in the finals. So to me, this seems okay. Well, this is a very small sample size. So
yeah. All right,
let's continue.
Yeah, so let's move on to the Masters. This was at the end of October, same time of years. We're going to have this upcoming one next week. So run through this real quick. On the men's side, Peter de Cruz lost the quarterfinal to Gushue. Kevin Koe lost the semifinal to Gushue. Nicholas Edin lost the final to Gushue. That's a good run for Brad Gushue there. John Schuster and Kyle Smith missed the playoffs. And Thomas Ulsrud, he lost the tiebreaker to Mike McEwen. And so Gushue, as mentioned, beats Nicholas Edin in the final for his second consecutive Grand Slam championship there in the fall of 2017. Over on the women's side, Anna Hasselborg lost to Jennifer Jones in the semis. Rachel Homan missed the playoffs again. Eve Muirhead lost the semifinal to Carrie Anderson, and Tirinzoni lost the quarterfinal to Carrie Anderson. So Jennifer Jones ends up winning that event, beating Carrie Anderson in the final. So again, you have some pretty mixed results. None of these Olympic teams are running through the field at all. Kevin Koe did go 4-0 through his round robin, but again, nothing really stands out in terms of the playoffs or getting to the championship. Again, we have one of the Olympic teams in the final, but that's it.
Right. So I sure think Brad Gushue's got to be a favorite for the old Canadian.
Yeah, right. We would have been thinking, oh my,
Olympic bid.
Yeah, Brad Gushue's on fire.
Hottest team.
So then the national was the event that took place November 14 to 19. Now, what's interesting about the national is that this took place during the European Championship. So you don't have a lot of European representation. You have some, but not nearly as much. So in this event, you have Kim Chang-min, the South Korean men's team. They participate in the national. They go 3-1 and actually get to the final, losing to Bruce Mouat, who was not Team Scotland or Team Great Britain at the Olympics. So they were able to play in this. And then Kevin Koe actually lost to Mouat in the quarterfinal. So here we have Mouat with a win. On the women's side, Rachel Homan loses to Casey Scheidegger in a quarterfinal, and Bingyu Wang misses the playoffs. So again, small sample size. This field, if you go through this field, it's more of a tier 2 type event because you are missing so many of the top teams.
Yeah, and it makes sense to, that these other teams would go and play Euros. That's the more important one for them. So
yeah.
Okay.
All right. So last one, Canadian Open in January of 2018. So this is the last big event before the Olympic Games. And Scott, we have our first Olympic team winning a Grand Slam. That's Peter de Cruz. They come out of the B-side qualifier. They beat Nicolas Edin in the final. Of course, Nicolas Edin loses the final, so it was an all-Olympic final there. You have Kevin Koe losing to Nick Edin in the semifinal. Then Kim Chang-min misses the playoffs, as does John Schuster and Thomas Ulsrud. Over on the women's side, you have Eunjung Kim. She loses to Chelsea Carey in a semifinal. Anna Hasselberg misses the playoffs. Bit of a shocker there. Rachel Homan loses to Eunjung Kim in the quarterfinals. Nina Roth misses the playoffs, and Silvana Tirinzoni loses to Jennifer Jones in the final. And the final ultimately is Chelsea Carey beating Michelle Englot there for the title. So those are the 4 events that take place prior to the Olympic Games. So Scott, I want to just run through the records of each of these teams to see if there's any correlation between how they performed in the slams leading into the Olympics and then the Olympics themselves.
Yes, let's hear it.
All right. So overall, Kevin Koe in the round robin of the slams goes 11-6, 2-3 in the playoffs for a total of 13-9. And in the Olympic Games, he goes 6-3, 6-5 overall. If you count the 0-2 in the playoffs, finishes in 4th place. So Scott, I would say that 13-9 and then 6-3, a slightly better percentage there at the 6-3. So he kind of outperformed what he did in the slams when he went to the Olympics, despite the disappointing 4th place finish.
Well, I mean, if you count the playoffs, which I think you should, 13-9 versus 6-5.
Yeah, okay, that's true.
I would say no, he didn't perform better.
All right, so an underperformance there from what we expected. John Schuster, of course, this is going to stand out. John Schuster goes 6-7 round robin, 0-1 in his lone playoff appearance for a total of 6-8 at those slams. Of course, that 5-4 during the round robin of the Olympics and runs through the playoffs for the gold medal. So it's interesting. Like he goes 6-8 in the slams and then has that 5-4 in the round robin. I mean, it's an over of what he did during the slams, but not by much if we're looking just at the round robin.
Not by much, no. And then we all know the story of catching fire. Yeah. And so I would say he overperformed his slams.
Well, yeah, absolutely he did.
It'd be hard to not when you win a gold medal.
Yeah, and considering, again, he was under 500 in the slams that year. Nicolas Edin, he goes 8-5 round robin, 5-3 in the playoffs during the slams for a total of 13-8, and he was in first place after the round robin at the Olympics, going 7-2. That was a really bunched field too at the Olympics. And of course, Nicolas Edin won the semifinal, lost the final to John Schuster for the 2nd place. So that's about even in terms of performance, would you say?
Yeah, that's what I'd say, about even.
Okay. Peter de Cruz, the lone Grand Slam champion who participated in the Olympic Games, 6-8 in the round robin, great 4-1 record in the playoffs, 10-7 overall. But I mean, it also means he missed the playoffs once. So not great. So overall 10-7, he went 5-4 in the round robin, had to come through a tiebreaker against Kyle Smith to eventually win the gold medal. So the total record at the Olympics was 7-5. So that's about the same too, kind of around even with a hair over 500.
Yeah. And you said the gold medal, Sean. He came through to win the bronze medal.
Yes. Oh, excuse me. Yes, he did. Yeah, this isn't the high jump where we're just like, hey, you both want one? Sure. even though that was the moment of the Olympics for me. Kyle Smith. He only played in one event. He goes 1-3 and missed the playoffs. He went 5-4 in the Olympic Games, lost that tiebreaker game to Peter DeCruz. I don't know, Scott, do we make anything of that 1-3 appearance?
I've noted that is not statistically significant.
Okay, fair.
NSS.
Yes.
That.
Thomas Ulsrud, he goes 3-4 in round robin play, 0-1 in the playoffs, 3-5 overall during the slams, and 4-5 in the Olympic Games for a 6th place finish. And that's about even compared to what he did in the slams to what he did in the Olympics. And then Kim Chang Min, he goes 4-4 round robin, 2-1 in the playoffs to get to that final for a 6-5 overall record, 4-5 in the Olympics. So about the same, but maybe slightly underperformed in the Olympics compared to the slams. He did get into that final. Now that was the final without Euro players, but still it's a final.
But still, yeah.
All right. Okay. So on the women's side, Anna Hasselberg goes 8-5 round robin, 3-2 during the playoffs for an 11-7 record during the slam season, 7-2 in the Olympic game round robin. Of course, wins the gold medal, so an overall 9-2 record there. So very much overperformed compared to the slam season.
I'd say so.
Rachel Homan goes 8-7 during the round robin, 0-2 in her 2 playoff appearances for an 8-9 record, and goes 4-5 at the Olympics, of course, for that very surprising 6th place finish. About even then, right? Her slam season kind of predicted what she did in the Olympics.
I mean, yeah, it didn't predict what she did in the trials, but
no,
yeah, it is about the same. One game under 500 for both.
No. Eve Muirhead goes 5-3 in the round robin, 3-2 in the playoffs for an 8-5 total. She goes 6-3 during the round robin, but loses her 2 playoff games at the Olympic Games for 6-5 overall for a 4th place finish. That's disappointing, I think, given the success she had during the week there in Korea.
Yeah, I would say it's an underperformance of her slams record.
Yeah, I agree with that. And then we got Silvana Tirenzoni, 8-5, made 3 playoffs in the slams, but lost all those games. So she ends up with an 8-8 record in the slam season, 4-5, and a 7th place finish in the Olympic Games.
Yeah, but about the same performance. This is before joining forces with
Elena Pats.
Yeah. So when you look at Tirenzoni's record and see 4-5, and you think, really, that's the team that has been so dominant the last 2 or 3 years?
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a different team. So.
For sure. Yeah. Then Bingyu Wang, she's 2-6 during the slams, did not make a playoff appearance, goes 4-5 for a 5th place finish at the Olympic Games. That might be it's a bit slight overperformance of what she did in the slams, but you missed the playoffs, you missed the playoffs.
Yeah, slight over though. Maybe the veteran of the field, people maybe snuck up on a couple teams, but slight overperformance.
Yeah. Nina Roth goes 3-6 in her slam appearances, did not make the playoffs. She goes 4-5 during the Olympics for an 8th place finish. About the same.
Yeah, about what you'd expect.
And then Eunjung Kim, 5-4 in her slams, 1-2 in her playoffs for a 6-6 total, and then just ran through the field in the Olympics, going 8-1, finishing first at the end of the round robin. Of course, lost that gold medal game to Anna Hasselberg for a silver medal, and that was the surprise of the Olympics, I think, there, Scott. So a definite overachievement compared to the slams.
Yeah, I'll say it must have been something in the water there in Korea, playing on home soil.
Yeah,
really inspired. I vaulted them to that amazing record.
Yeah. So overall, Scott, are there any takeaways here from you? So I've put this all in a spreadsheet that you've been able to look at. Is there any takeaway? Is there a correlation between these pre-Olympic slams and what could happen once we get to February in Beijing?
To me, it seems kind of random, and that there's not enough of a sample size.
Okay.
What we'll do this fall, is we will keep track of the records of the teams, or go back once the field is determined for the Olympics and see how they performed in the slams and see if we can try to use that to predict anything for the games, for the Beijing games.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. I mean, we had some underperforming, some overperforming. Mostly teams were about on line with how they performed in the slams. But like you say, that there's much more international competition at the slams now.
Yep.
Like I said earlier, boy, I would have picked Gushue and Jones if I was only picking based on this performance who would win the Canadian berths, and obviously that wasn't the case. So yeah, I'm not prepared to make any declarations right now.
All right, and I think that's fair. So for me, it's interesting now that Jennifer Jones and Brad Gushue won 2 slams each in the lead up to the trials. So they both won theirs before the Canadian Open in January. So they won 2 leading into those trials, which were here in Ottawa, of course, in 2017. And yeah, if we had been doing this show at the time, I'm sure we would have been very bullish on Jennifer Jones and Brad Gushue because of that. Both of them lost in the semifinals at the trials, Jones to Homan and Gushue to McEwen. So it's one of these things where maybe that doesn't necessarily mean as much in terms of who wins necessarily, but I will note that the records correlate slightly. I think there's a stronger correlation of records than I would have expected of what they did in the slams to what they did in the Olympics. And again, the sample size of that is probably not big enough to actually matter. It's just sort of a curious thing that I'll be interested to track as we go through the fall. And then when we get into the Olympics again in February, to see if we see a similar thing happen this year, because maybe then we would have a trend line that we could potentially use moving forward.
Yeah, we can definitely graph that up and put it on a chart, get an R-squared regression analysis going.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But for now, I don't think we have enough sample. But yeah, by the time the Olympics come, that'll be pretty good.
Yeah, so just some food for thought there when we look at what happened in 2017 as we watch here going forward in the Slam. Scott, you know what this means, though?
Tell me.
It's time for picks.
Oh, boy.
All right, so what we'll do for the slams this year, do you want to do it the same way or do we want to change it up a bit?
Well, why don't you remind everyone, definitely not me, what we've done in the past years, and then we will make a determination on that.
All right, so in the past we have picked, I believe, 3 teams each for the events. And if your team makes the playoffs, it's worth a point. If your team wins, it's worth an additional point. And then at the end of the season, we tally it all up and see who ended up with the most points.
Yeah, I still like that. I mean, we've got, 8 teams making the playoffs. We're only picking 3.
Yeah. Now you have to declare a winner, too.
You have to declare
your declared winner has to win, not just one of the teams you pick for the playoffs.
So the way that I see we've done it is that we pick a winner and then we pick 3 more.
Oh, 4 total.
So 4 people in total.
Okay. All right. Well, let's kick this off. I'll go first then, Scott, and I'll start on the women's side. I will go with Carrie Anderson and Rachel Homan and Silvana Tirinzoni to make the playoffs, but give me, I'm going to go maybe a little off the board here and go Elena Kovaleva to win this Grand Slam to kick us off.
So Elena Kovaleva. So you're picking Kovaleva to win, Tirinzoni, Homan, and Anderson?
Yes, as my playoff teams.
Okay. Well, sheesh, you've really put me on the spot here. Give me Anna Hasselborg to win.
Okay. Because
obviously. And let me just take a look at these women's teams again. Tabitha Peterson playing pretty well. Kelsey Rock playing well. Kovaleva you've got there. Tirinzoni. I'm going to go with Minji Kim.
Okay.
As another playoff team. Give me Fujisawa and give me Jones.
Okay. All right.
Jennifer Jones. I'm typing these into a sheet if you're wondering why it's making me why I'm sounding so slow.
You're being very deliberative in who you want to pick.
Exactly.
All right. Over on the men's side, give me Cooey to make the playoffs along with Matt Dunstone, Brendan Botcher, and following up their win this week, give me Gushu to get another win in Oakville, this time in the first Grand Slam of the 2021-2022 season.
Well, Sean, we spend all that time talking about what a great international representation we have. And then you go and pick 4 Canadian teams.
That's true.
Oh boy. All right. For my playoffs, I'm going to go with Brad Jacobs to make the playoffs. I like Ross White to come out of that B side or C side. Gushu again to make the playoffs, and give me Bruce Mowat.
Okay.
Matt. I spelled it wrong. Yeah, I like that Scottish team. Wow,
All
I
right.
just did it again. Anyway.
All right. So there it is. Those are our picks for the Masters. Just a couple quick notes here before we wrap this week. Just alluded to it. A couple results from the weekend. Kevin Cooey won the event it's the IG Wealth Management Western Showdown. He beat Brad Jacobs in the final. Bit of a rout, winning 8-1 in the final there. So congratulations to them. Tabitha Peterson and her team won the Autumn Gold Curling Classic, first time in that event's 43-year history that an American team comes out on top. So exciting times certainly there for Team Peterson. And then mentioned it that Team Gushu was able to win the Stu Sells Toronto Tankard, which took place at the Oakville Curling Club. So congratulations to them. They beat John Epping in the semifinals, Jonathan Buke in the final, and they beat Glenn Howard there in the final with a 6-1 win. So exciting for them. And also we'll note that Peter de Cruz continues to do well as we lead into the Slam season, as he won the event in Basel on Sunday, beating Nicholas Adine 7-5 in the final there. And of course, I don't know if we talked about it on the show, but they did win the series against Yannick Schwaller in a sweep. And if you have not seen the clip of Peter de Cruz, his reaction to winning that series, if you didn't know what team he was on, you would have thought that he had lost. It is very entertaining to watch that. So, and then just the other note here that Warren Cross won the McKee Holmes Fall Curling Classic. So congratulations to them. That'll get them a few points.
Yeah. Very big congrats for that.
Yeah. So that's it, Scott. Anything else from the world of curling?
For now, I don't know. I managed to catch, like I said, some of that curling on the weekend. I saw the very end of the Gushu Howard game, and it was Mike Harris on the call with Colin the Curler.
Hey, nice.
Don't know if that's a breach of his contract or anything, but no, it was good. A friend of the show, Mary from not Rocks Across the Pond, Mary from Two Girls in a Game podcast was on doing some commentary as well. Always good to hear her voice. So yeah, feeling pretty good about the whole season of curling really kicking into gear. Excited for this Grand Slam to get started.
Yeah, so we are going to be fast and furious here over the next few weeks. We got Slam, then we got the pre-trials, then we'll have another Slam, and then we're into the Canadian curling trials in this time too. We're also going to have the Euros. We also have the Pacific Asia Championship. We have some other countries who are going to be determining their Olympic representatives. We are fully loaded as we head into December, and then it'll cool off a little bit, but not even that much, because then we got mixed doubles trials happening over New Year's. We are just fully loaded here, Scott. This is going to be a fun stretch. Now, I will just forewarn everybody, our episodes talking about the slams in April probably won't be as excited about them as we are now. But it's fun right now as we head into the winter.
It's fun right now. And you know what, Sean? We'll try to keep the energy up.
We will try our best. But, those Olympics, man. Ooh, those Olympics. Europe's okay. I can deal with the European Olympics. Like when it was in Sochi, it was fine enough. But the Asian Olympics, as we discovered in the summer, they're hard to be able to see everything live.
Yeah, it's going to be, a lot of late nights.
Yeah.
But
in early mornings.
Hopefully it'll be worth it.
Yeah. But God bless NBC for paying all that money, because they try to cater the schedule as much as they can to a North American television audience.
Yeah, so, and should be able to watch, replays on NBC or on CBC.
Yeah, I think we'll be able to see the morning games in Beijing in their entirety before going to sleep.
And then we just have to wake up and not look at anything, watch the night game.
Yeah, you can probably watch the night game in real time. It's the afternoon. I'm not going to see, in all likelihood, an end of any of the afternoon games, but maybe I will. Who knows? Things happen. We're all working from home.
Yeah.
So it'll be fun, and we have some fun stuff planned as we move forward. So be sure to subscribe if you have not yet, wherever it is you get your podcast. You don't want to miss any of the fun and frivolity going forth, and please do leave a review, do some comments, fill out all those things. It helps the algorithms and helps other people find the show. Or if you have friends who just like curling, we love the idea of, you sharing the show around with all your friends, particularly, as we said, as things heat up in the world of curling. And of course, if you want to let us know what you want to hear on the show, gameofstonespodcast@gmail.com, or you can find us on social media at Game of Stones Pod. Head on over to gameofstonespod.com, where you can find all of our past episodes and all of the merch that is available. And of course, for the t-shirts, all proceeds to Food Banks Canada. The rest of the items, all proceeds to the Sandra Schmirler Foundation, and we are matching all of those donations. So a lot of good stuff over there. So Scott, what do you got on tap here on this very warm Tuesday evening here in Ottawa?
Well, about supper time, so I'll get some supper ready.
Yeah.
And I think that's all. Maybe put some of this baseball on that you told me about.
Yeah. So enjoy that. I'm going to try to fix my apartment. We'll see how well that goes. And if I'm able to do that, we'll be back with you next week. So thanks for listening, everybody. Hopefully we'll be back in a week's time. But of course, until then, keep those brooms on the ice and don't dump that intern.
Make the final.